On October 20th of this year, I got a very strange email. I'm going to put it up on the screen for you. Title of the email is Juicy and Real Tip. Would you expose a company? And what I noticed right away, which is what I always check when I get emails, is who is this coming from? And I looked at it, and the email address where it's coming from is proton.me. And I'm like, okay, that's really fishy. So I looked into that, and apparently proton.me is an email address, which is a Swiss end-to-end encrypted email service. So now I'm like, okay, this is even weirder now. Like, what is even happening? And I'm reading this email, and I'm like, they're being real, like, creepy. Like, there's something off about this. At the time that I received this email, I was like, absolutely not. This seems super fishy. I am not going anywhere where I don't have solid evidence. I don't like this encrypted email address. This is freaking me out. I'm not even going to respond to this. But then I started noticing things popping up and different people or entities biting on this. So I saw on MarketWatch, which is an investment website, they published information about this. And then I saw on Instagram, Estee Laundry, who is kind of a whistleblower kind of Instagram account, they posted something about this. And then people started sending me all these TikTok videos of people talking about it. And then what really pushed me over the edge and what made me want to make this video was a Rolling Stone article. I hinted to that I was going to talk about this in a What's Up in Makeup previously, and I was like, you know what? It's too weird. I'm not going to talk about it till I have more information. There are some really weird rumors going around about e.l.f. right now and some connections that they may or may not have. The evidence on this is so weak and odd that I don't feel comfortable talking about it as of What's Up in Makeup as of this show. I am keeping my eye on it though to see if it's worth talking about. But I think when you're talking about something serious, it's important to not break a story ahead of time when there really isn't evidence to back something up. The Instagram account Estee Laundry does have a post about it, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it yet. Accusations against e.l.f. in this are extremely serious, so I think it's very important to be educated about it. I do think that it is extremely possible that a competitor to e.l.f. encouraged this to go into the media in order to bring them down because they are doing so well right now. But it is also possible that the accusations are valid. So I will keep my eye on it. And if I feel like I have something real and solid and legit to share with you, I will definitely do that. Today's that day. I'm going to talk to you about it. I have very strong opinions about this and what this is really about. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what is happening. I'm going to show you all of the evidence that was presented by this financial institution so you can decide for yourself. Is e.l.f. directly connected to a or are you going to agree with me? Because I think that this is about something completely different. I don't think the person that sent this email or the 4 emails after this had our best interests at heart, but I'm going to get into all of that right now. In order to understand the story, we do need to go through some background, and I need to make sure you understand the players that are involved in this. And the first one is a called Nexium. I am not going to go into all of the details of the horrible things that happen in Nexium because it could be triggering, it's disgusting, it's horrible. There are plenty of places that you can find out more about this cult. Specifically, there's videos on YouTube, there's documentaries that have been made. I will link some articles down below for you to read, but what you really need to know is that it was very bad. A lot of people got arrested, put in prison for this. The leader of this cult was sentenced to 120 years in prison for the things he was found guilty of. Another thing you need to know about this cult is that unlike a lot of other cults that present themselves as religious and, your connection to God and all of that, Nexium was not like that. It was more self-improvement and business-minded, helping you to have a better life. And that's how they pull people in rather than a religious message. There are 2 more players you need to know about before we get to e.l.f. e.l.f., the next one is a brand called Movers and Shakers. Movers and Shakers is one of those companies, and there are so many of them out there, that help brands to get their products out there to advertise on social media specifically. And I'm sure you are well aware that a good social media campaign can earn brands so much money. It can get brands in front of so many eyes. These social media campaigns are directly increasing sales and revenue for these brands. So if you can get a really good social media marketing company to help you, it can grow your brand ridiculously. The homepage of the Movers and Shakers website says connecting to culture to spread joy. I want you to remember that because we're going to go back to their use of joy later. The company claims, again, on their website, 250 billion views across their campaigns, 20 million user-generated videos, and 70 million streams of their original branded music. Yes, they create music specifically for brand campaigns. On their case study page, they have 3 different brands that they're highlighting. The first one is e.l.f. Cosmetics, the second one is Netflix, and the third one has to do with a children's toy, Nerf guns. For the e.l.f. campaign in particular, Movers and Shakers takes credit for that viral Eyes, Lips, Face song that e.l.f. released in 2019. It was freaking everywhere.
Let's bang with your eyes. Money, look. Let me see them lips.
Even celebrities were creating videos using this song. Celebrities like Reese Witherspoon and Lizzo and Ellen DeGeneres. People you may know from the beauty space, Patrick Starr, James Charles, just so many videos created with this song. Along with that, they also take credit for the e.l.f. Chipotle collab.
So when e.l.f. Cosmetics and Chipotle became 2 of the hottest brands on TikTok, we thought, why the e.l.f. not? And created the most unexpected brand collab of the year.
Another collab they take credit for with e.l.f. is the e.l.f. and Dunkin' collab. So as you can see, they did some of the most memorable ad campaigns that I remember from e.l.f. Cosmetics over the past few years. What you may be wondering at this point is, what the world does this have to do with Nexium? Well, apparently the co-founders, they're also partners, Jeffrey Goldberg and Evan Horowitz, were once members of Nexium. That's what is being claimed. But in order to find the connection, you have to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So if you will indulge me and go down this rabbit hole with me, I will explain how we know that there is some kind of connection here. Evan's official website on his LinkedIn page is evanhorowitz.me, and it is listed as his personal page. So if you go there, but you take a turn and look at it through the lens of the Wayback machine, which records screenshots and functional pages from the past, and you go all the way back to 2016 and you look at his About Me page, this is what you will find. Along the way, Evan has consistently helped others bring more awesomeness to their lives. When he discovered Executive Success Programs in 2011, he applied its revolutionary methodology to build a career out of his hobby of helping friends with their businesses. He enabled his clients at Evan Horowitz Advertising to achieve 30 to 300% revenue growth within 12 months, and by applying the tools he gained in ESP, Evan quadrupled his own revenue in 1 year. When I said that Nexium was founded on self-improvement and business growth and all of that, that was ESP. That was the Executive Success Program. There's also an undated photo of Evan and Jeffrey with former Nexium members. Their names are Nikki Klein and her Smallville co-star Allison Mack. Allison was actually sentenced to prison, but she was recently released back in July. The final company I want to introduce you to, and the one that I think is the most important in this story, is one called Spruce Point Capital Management. According to their website, they are a, quote, New York-based investment management firm focused on short selling, value, and special situation investment opportunities. On November 9th, Spruce put out a press release. I guess. I don't know. Is it called a press release in this world? Is it an announcement? In it, there was a report. So maybe we'll just call it a report. In this report, they said that they were very concerned about e.l.f.'s connection with movers and shakers. In the articles linked down below, one of them says, quote, after conducting a forensic financial review of e.l.f. Beauty, one of the most richly valued stocks in the cosmetic and beauty industry, Spruce Point questions why e.l.f. partnered with movers and shakers, an advertising agency co-founded by former members of the Nexium cult. We find evidence that suggests movers and shakers has messaging, branding, and continued connections to the teachings of imprisoned cult leader Keith Raniere and his loyalists. The report reveals evidence that e.l.f. has used marketing messages that appear similar to those frequently used within the cult and urges retail partners including Target, Walmart, and Ulta Beauty to reevaluate their connections with e.l.f. based on our investigation. We estimate a 45% to 65% downside risk, or $34.35 to $54 per share. They're basically saying anybody that carries e.l.f., you want to drop them. You want to drop them because this is going to be very bad for them. We're going to give you information that is going to make customers not want to buy from this company. But I ask you here to hold your judgment until you hear what the evidence is. Here's another excerpt from the Spruce Point statement. They said, although the founders were not charged with any wrongdoing, we find concerning evidence to suggest that movers and shakers and or its founders may have continued sympathy and or affiliation with the teachings of Nexium and former members who continue to support both Nexium cult leader Keith Raniere and the cult's tenets. They also say that one of the key pieces of evidence that they are using in order to connect e.l.f. specifically with Nexium is their use of two words in their advertising. Those words are joy and badass. They point out that Nexium used the tagline, the science of joy, and that Movers and Shakers also uses joy in their big marketing for their company, and that now e.l.f. is using joy, and that this is the connection that e.l.f. believes and supports Nexium. They also say that the term badass was used within the women's piece of the cult. It's really gross and disgusting, but it was when the women were being branded, which is something that they did to these women, that they were called badasses, that it was kind of like a sorority situation where that was part of who they were badasses. And that when e.l.f. uses the word badass in their marketing, it's a nod back to Nexium. Spruce went into a lot of detail in this report that they published, but before you download the report, you have to read this big legal disclaimer. And in this legal disclaimer, it says some things that made me not want to share this report with you because of the legal disclaimer. I don't know what distribution means in their world. And if I take a photo from that and I put it in my video, that may be considered distribution and they could come after me legally. I am not trying to mess with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link down below the report so you can look at it in full. There's also a podcast that they do a video version of. It's here on YouTube. They go through it slide by slide. So if you'd rather see it in that way, that is another option for you. So this email address sent me a Word document. There was nothing in there about that I couldn't share it with you. So I'm going to take the information directly from this email that they sent me rather than the slides, just to protect my butt. But it's pretty much the same stuff. This is what Te Cuento Mi Historia wanted you to know about e.l.f. By the way, thank you to Duolingo, 124 days streak on Duolingo Spanish. Now I understand what that means. It means I tell you my story, which is pretty appropriate for what they're trying to do. So according to them, in early 2019, e.l.f. unknowingly sourced false eyelashes from North Korea. Basically what happened is that they bought them from China, and China had sourced some of their ingredients or some of the things they, parts of the lashes or whatever from North Korea. e.l.f. didn't know that, and they purchased these lashes from China. They say that around the same time, an e.l.f. board member got caught up in the Varsity Blues scandal. Do you remember that? The guy's name was Bill McGlashan. If you don't know what that was, at least 53 people were found guilty of committing fraud when trying to get their kids into college. One of those people that was found guilty was actress Lori Loughlin. Basically, what they would do is they would use their wealth, they would pay money to fudge things about their kids' academic or athletic history in order to get them into more prestigious colleges. So this guy who was on the board at ELF at that time, this guy Bill, he was part of that. Next, they go after movers and shakers, and they talk about some Glassdoor reviews. In this one review, it said, the company's spread joy messaging and the actions from the execs create a culture of toxic positivity. People aren't allowed, nor do they feel comfortable to speak about negative things they have experienced with clients or just generally within the company. And the fact that this Glassdoor review used the word joy, they're saying that that is backing up that Movers and Shakers is connected to the joy within Nexium. Then they go into a lot of detail about how the Movers and Shakers campaigns, the Eyes, Lips, Face song, the Dunkin' collab, the Chipotle collab, how much that really helped ELF. And I will tell you, it did. Like, ELF was not doing well. We talked about this for years, that ELF was not doing very well for a very long time. And it seems like this was a big turning point for them to end up doing very, very well. And it was directly due to Movers and Shakers. Sorry to interrupt, editing Jen here. I'm sitting here listening to myself and I'm like, well, we don't know exactly how many sales ELF had off of these different campaigns that Movers and Shakers helped them with. But one thing we can look up is the stock price during that time. And did ELF stock improve due to these campaigns? And I've labeled it for you so you can see. Now, I am not a big stock person, so I don't know. And maybe this is just zoomed out too far or something, but I don't really see a whole lot happening in the stock price when they had these different campaigns, the Eyes, Lips, Face campaign, the Chipotle campaign, and the Dunkin' campaign. It seems like really the stock has taken off since late 2022. So I don't know, man. I just wanted to show you that little piece of data so you can add that to your information bank as you listen to what I'm presenting to you in the video. Speaking of that, let's get back to the video. A quote from the email that they sent me says, in fact, there's even more striking similarity between the way ELF Beauty executives talk about their brand and the way Movers and Shakers founders talk about theirs, with both parties repeatedly talking about connecting to culture and being culturally relevant. They're probably talking about 2020 when every single brand, everybody in 2020 was talking about being culturally relevant, culturally respectful. I hope you're starting to see the red flags in this report and some of the weak connections that Spruce Point is pointing out. Back to the email that they sent me, they also have a section in that document where they provide a list of people that I should look into, including Jeffrey Goldberg and the people that follow him on Twitter. One of the things they focused on was that people from ELF were talking to people from Movers and Shakers on LinkedIn, that they were liking each other's posts, that they were commenting things to each other. It's like, if you're working with somebody, aren't you gonna talk to them? Like, that doesn't mean you're part of a cult just because you talk to somebody. And also in the thing that I can't show you, they were talking about how people that were formerly associated with Nexium liked posts of Evan's. Like, Evan can't control who likes his posts. You know what I'm saying? It's just a lot of really weak connections. One thing that it doesn't say, notably, is it doesn't say that Evan and Jeffrey follow anybody that was part of the Nexium cult. The connection is that some people from the cult follow them. It is important to note that Spruce Point did do something here, because after this was published, the ELF stock dropped by 6%. And again, if you want to read all of the details, I will link their report down below, but I want you to read it with a really critical eye and think, are these strong connections or are these weak connections? Are these connections that mean something to me, or does Spruce Point have another motive, which is what we're getting into next. But before we get into that, let's just summarize what we've learned so far. Number one, Nexium was a disgusting cult that did disgusting and illegal things. People associated with that cult rightfully went to prison. Number two, we know that Movers and Shakers, for a fact, worked with ELF on some of their most successful campaigns. Number three, We know that Evan and Jeffrey from Movers and Shakers were at some point connected with some piece of Nexium. And number 4, that Spruce Capital Management put this information out about this connection between ELF and Movers and Shakers, and that caused ELF stock to drop 6%. But this is the twist. This is where I feel like we really need to focus our energy as consumers. It's important to note that ELF Cosmetics has been growing quarter over quarter for almost 5 years. On November 1st of 2023, just 8 days before Spruce Point dropped this report, ELF put up their updated projections based on current sales, their projections for 2024, and they increased those projections. CEO Tarang Amin said, quote, in quarter 2, we grew net sales by 76% and category share by 330 basis points, marking our 19th consecutive quarter of growing in each. As we look ahead, the significant white space we see across color cosmetics, skincare, and international gives us confidence that we are in the early innings of unlocking the full potential we see for ELF Beauty. Now, at this point, I'm going to start connecting dots. So it's important for you to know that we are going now from fact into my opinion land. I am not affiliated or associated. I don't even get PR from ELF. I don't know anything about Spruce Capital Management. I don't know anything about Movers and Shakers. I don't know any of these people. Because I have no insider knowledge on any of this, this is just my opinion connecting what I've seen in the situation. So I could be wrong on this, but I would not present this to you unless I thought that I was right on this. This is my thought, and it really does focus on Spruce Point and what their motivations are. So what their job is they do short selling, which is extremely risky. But if you can somehow control that risk, then you're likely to make a lot of money. So what is short selling? It's basically when you buy a stock when it is a low price, and then when it raises again, you sell it and you make a shit ton of money. So why might a stock drop? Usually it's because sales go down. But ELF sales are not going down. They are going up. So how do you get sales to drop for a company that is trading very high? You find obscure connections to piss off customers so that they stop buying. Or you just scare the market enough that that is going to happen to make the prices drop. Then you send out emails to the big mouths in the beauty industry. And you have them be your mouthpieces to spread the word that this company is awful and they have all of these connections to a sex cult and you don't want to buy from them anymore. And then people stop buying and then the price goes down and you need to do it fast. You need to have everybody talking at once. This needs to be huge across all social media platforms. So you get TikTokers, you get people on Instagram, you get people on YouTube to talk about it, to spread the word so that the stock price falls. And then when it falls, you buy a shit ton of it because you know the price, when the drama dies down, the price is just going to go right back up. And then you sell it and you make lots of money. If Spruce Capital Management was so concerned about Movers and Shakers being connected to a sex cult, why did they go after ELF? Why didn't they go after Mattel and freaking American Girl dolls and all of the companies that are working with Movers and Shakers that target children? Why didn't they go after them? Because ELF's a bigger fish. Because they know that the beauty space is volatile. And it even says in ELF's back end that things that happen socially could affect their stock price. They aren't saying this to educate customers. They aren't saying this to help us to know more about this company so that we don't support a bad company. They are saying this to manipulate us so that we won't buy ELF, their stock price will drop, and then they make more money. At the bottom of the Business Wire article, the very first one that was published, it says, quote, as disclosed, Spruce Point has a short position in ELF Beauty Inc. and owns derivative securities that stand to net benefit if its share price falls. They don't care about us. They tried to use me. They used Estee Laundry. They used those TikTokers to line their own pockets. But in the end, as a consumer, you have to decide what is best for you. You need to look at the connections that are fact and decide whether that's important to you or not. We know that ELF did hire Movers and Shakers. We know that the founders of Movers and Shakers were at some point connected with a program that was under the umbrella of Nexium. But in my opinion, if we are going to hold e.l.f. accountable for working with Movers and Shakers, we need to hold accountable all of the other companies that have worked with Movers and Shakers, including Amazon and Netflix and all of the companies that are listed next to me right now. Yes, it's important for e.l.f. to vet who they're working with. But I also think that it's very important to note that Evan and Jeffrey have never been charged with anything having to do with Nexium. So even if e.l.f. looked into Movers and Shakers, looked into Evan and Jeffrey's criminal past, they wouldn't have found a connection to Nexium. If Evan and Jeffrey had been found to have committed abuses or participated in abuses, then yeah, absolutely. I would be mad at e.l.f. I would say this is horrible, but they weren't found to have done anything. I think that's the most important thing. What are Evan and Jeffrey and all the other people that participated in this ESP, personal growth, business growth program, what are they supposed to do with the rest of their lives? They're supposed to just do nothing? They're not supposed to get a job or start a business. Like, I don't get it. In that Rolling Stone article that prompted me to make this video was published on November 20th of 2023. A representative for Evan and Jeffrey did put out a statement regarding Nexium. The representative said that Evan and Jeffrey only participated in professional leadership training courses called Executive Success Programs, a self-help program launched under the Nexium umbrella, and that when the shocking and abusive behavior by some of Nexium's leaders were revealed, we ceased our participation entirely. Evan and Jeffrey also said through that spokesperson, quote, "We strongly condemn the abhorrent actions conducted by some of the leaders within Nexium. We were not aware of or involved with these horrific acts, nor was our company. Our hearts go out to the individuals they hurt." In my opinion, this was a hit piece by Spruce Point to manipulate us. That's what I think this is all about. There is no evidence that the people from Movers and Shakers committed any crimes or were part of any crimes. Therefore, I have zero issues continuing to buy from e.l.f. You're telling me that the only evidence to connect e.l.f. to Nexium is their use of the words joy and badass and culturally responsive? I am going to laugh at you. I am going to laugh in your face because that is absolutely ridiculous. Marie Kondo has more influence on using the word joy in marketing than anybody else, in my opinion. And as far as the word badass, that word has been used since the 1950s, and the popularity of using that word was all over the early 2000s into the 2010s. It does not mean, in my opinion, that this is any way connected to Nexium. I think the connections are absolutely ridiculous. But the connection that is the strongest for me is the one to Spruce Point and their money, because that is what they do.
Hi, Ben Axel here, CIO and founder of Spruce Point Capital Management, with an explosive and concerning new report on e.l.f. Beauty, the ticker's ELF. Now, this stock trades at 7 times revenue on the belief that this 20% revenue growth will continue. If our message goes viral and channel partners and customers push back, we could see 65% downside risk.
And to the person that emailed me, I know this isn't the video you wanted me to make, and I'm not sorry for it. I think you're an asshole, and don't email me anymore. But at this point, my friends, it is your turn. In the collective brain of Makeup Awesomeness, where we help each other not to buy crap and not to be manipulated by companies in it for their own interests. But I would love to know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. What do you think of this story? I can't wait to read what you have to say, whether you agree with me, disagree with me. You know, all opinions are welcome. Thank you again so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out so much. And if you would like to hang out just a little bit longer, YouTube should be recommending a couple videos for you right over here to watch, including a video I picked up for you special. I think I'm going to link a behind the controversy one for you down there in case you haven't seen it. YouTube's going to pick the top one for you based on your viewing history, but if you do need to head out of here because you got stuff to do, there's a lot going on right now. Thank you for hanging out as long as you did, and love to you. I will see you in a video very, very soon. Bye!